that there is definitely an occult connection, an evil agenda that associates these. They literally are going to bring this world into a new age or a new era or a higher understanding. Help us with evolution. You know, some of the UFO ideas is that the UFOs, and von Daniken I think actually believe this. The idea is that the UFOs, the aliens, actually seeded the Earth. If you watch Mission to Mars, that's what you'll see. You'll be taught that these gray Martian aliens, seeing that their own land was going to be destroyed. By the way, that's biblical. I believe it references Rahab, that was destroyed in pieces. Their own world was going to be destroyed, and the gray aliens implanted the seeds of DNA on planet Earth, and over time they evolved. And the dawning or the awareness in the movie Mission to Mars was that we're the Martians, we're the aliens. And so, and you see this in Kubrick's movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, written by Arthur C. Clarke, where you have this idea that the aliens sort of put this monolith there in front of the chimpanzees, and it brought them into a new age of warfare and enlightenment, and so they evolved, and now there's one on the moon, so when we reach the moon we're ready for our next step of evolution. And I want you to think about this, because a lot of this stuff that goes along with UFOs and aliens and space seed and so on, they're actually setting you up to believe that they put us here. Von Daniken teaches this, that they put us here, and that we have kind of turned bad, and they're going to evolve us to our next step, our next stage, our next level. There is an agenda with this whole UFO, alien, gray alien, reptile alien, whatever you want to. There's an agenda with this. There's a connection between the alien agenda and the coming of the Antichrist. Let me get morals and dogma out here. Albert Pike talks all through this book about the mystery religion, the mystery doctrine, and he references, and so does Manly Hall. They all reference these stories, these myths, these fables from old of a God who came down from the heavens and who was murdered or killed in some way, and he was buried and he remains dead, and yet he's going to be brought back to life through some magical, mystical ritual or something like that that happens. What they're all talking about is the beast. The Bible says in Revelation 17, Revelation 13, that the beast that thou sawest was and is not. He has been sent to the pit. He's going to rise up out of the pit one of these days. He's going to be resurrected. And that's what they're talking about. So let's go back to this alien agenda again. Steven Spielberg, okay, and he makes this movie called E.T., the Extraterrestrial. This is about the God who falls from the skies with his craft, with his wheel. He falls to the earth. The government gets involved. He dies. He is resurrected, and yet he is going to bring, look at the imagery here. He's bringing little Elliot to a new awareness. He actually touches his forehead where the pineal gland is. We've talked about that. To a new awareness, a new era, a new age, an age of enlightenment, just like what we saw in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So we have this story that the aliens are actually going to come down and bring us good things. They're going to bring us enlightenment. God actually tells the truth on them. He actually reveals what their agenda really is. Remember when we saw the chariot of God in Ezekiel chapter 1, it came out of the north. And I want you to remember that. Joel chapter 2, verse 1. The Bible says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion. Sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. Those clouds and thick darkness. Remember what Ezekiel saw at the coming of that chariot, the clouds enfolding themselves. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Now look at verse 5. Here's our clue. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains, so shall they leap. Like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. There's that word chariots again. And God is using that word specifically. This is Daniel's fourth kingdom. This is the representation of the fourth beast that we see here. This is principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and spiritual wickedness in high places. And God is telling you that their appearance and their sound is like chariots, accompanied by UFOs. They're coming accompanied by UFOs. This is a description, and we've done this study and other things, the Truth Behind Joel's Army video. If you don't have that, get a hold of that. Call our ministry and we'll get that to you. But we've taught about this idea that this army of Joel, in Joel chapter 1, matches the exact description of what we see in Revelation chapter 9 at the sounding of the fifth trumpet. Remember, in Joel chapter 2, he says, blow ye the trumpet in Zion. And here we have the sound of trumpets. By the way, let's go back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. What was it that preceded the appearance of the aliens? Everybody in the movie that was drawn to this place was given the image of a mountain to go to, and they were all hearing in their head this musical cycle, this musical key, this sound. Okay? And you saw the end there where they're, the government agents are talking with the mothership using these little trumpets. Okay? Back and forth, back and forth. So here we have the sounding of the fifth trumpet. A star falls from heaven. Remember Starman? Key was given to him, the bottomless pit. He opens up the bottomless pit, and these locusts, these devils, come out of the pit. Revelation chapter 9, verse 7, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. That's what we saw back in Joel. And on their heads was as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth was as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron. Remember that word iron. And the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots, of many horses running to battle. This is the destruction that God promised was going to happen by releasing the evil angels. Number one, He's releasing them out of the pit where some of them are being held, and He's going to discard them or kick them out of heaven. They're falling down from the heaven. They have an evil agenda in their heart and a purpose, and God is going to use these chariots of the gods as the destruction vessels of mankind on the planet Earth. He even used a word that I think is very interesting out of the book of Lamentations concerning this destruction. He says in Lamentations chapter 5 verse 2, our inheritance is turned to strangers, and our houses to aliens. And simply the meaning of the word aliens here is that people that don't belong in this land. This fourth kingdom, principalities and powers and rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places, they're going to take over the land and take dominion of the land that God had given to mankind back in the creation. God actually said that I will give mankind dominion over the earth and over the fowls of the heaven and all the beasts of the earth. God said He would give them dominion. But now in the last days, God is taking away the dominion of man and giving it back to these foul spirits and these evil angel beasts, accompanied by their wheels. This word chariots, remember, these chariots are angels. They're the cherubs. When we see the appearance of these UFOs, when we see things that they can do that we can't understand, remember what they represent. Nahum chapter 3, woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not, the noise of a whip, and the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing of horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horsemen lifted up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that's Mystery Babylon the Great, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcraft. And let me just, a couple things out of this verse here. Number one, he mentions the jumping chariots. That is what we're hearing of those who have seen, legitimately, those who have seen UFOs, is that they just have the ability to jump one place to another without acceleration, without braking or deceleration. They just move and they stop. Then they move again, doing things that in our three-dimensional realm are impossible. But to four-dimensional creatures or objects, they're not impossible. They're very possible, and God describes them as jumping chariots. And notice also in this verse, he is associating it with witchcrafts and whoredoms. Again, we're seeing the rise and the increase of evil simultaneously accompanied by the multitude of these chariots of the gods appearing in the skies. Now, I'm going to switch gears here for a second. I'm going to teach you. We've taught you about the fourth dimension. We've talked to you about the spirit realm. We've told you that these chariots are actually angels. They're the chariots of God, including the evil ones. We're seeing the rise of evil angels and their work in the earth, and it is associated with the increase of UFO activity. Now I'm going to show you through the language of typology, and I'm going to explain that, the language of typology in the Bible, how the Bible shows us stories in the Old Testament and the New Testament of what is going to happen in the last days. It's something that this was really fascinating to me. I want you to look at this picture here. Okay. Here we have a picture, and here we see the image of a man. Now this man is a three-dimensional object. He has width, he has breadth, and he has height. And I want you to notice that the shadow that he casts is not three-dimensional. It's two-dimensional. It only has this way and that way. Okay? That's all it has. It has two dimensions. And the three-dimensional world has, if I were to run my hand through somebody's shadow, their shadow doesn't impede me in any way. I can manipulate that shadow, or I can do whatever with my hand. The scientists who talk about the fourth dimension say that as a three-dimensional object casts a two-dimensional shadow, a fourth-dimensional object casts a three-dimensional shadow. And this is exactly the language that's being used in describing, in the book of Hebrews, in describing the building of the tabernacle. God had showed Moses a vision of the fourth dimensional, the spirit realm, the heavenly realm, New Jerusalem, city built foursquare. He showed him an image of the temple in heaven, and God said, "See to it that thou build exactly the way you saw." So what was being built on the earth, as far as the tabernacle and the altar and everything like that, the altar with four horns and four corners, was actually a three-dimensional shadow of the heavenly altar, the heavenly tabernacle, and so on. Here's the verse in Hebrews chapter 8, verse 4. "For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law, who serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou maketh all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount." So even this concept that a fourth-dimensional object makes a three-dimensional shadow is found in the Scriptures, wherein the things that were seen in the Old Testament are actually a shadow of things to come, or even of heavenly things. This is the basis of the study of Bible typology. And what we're going to do for the next few minutes, we're going to show you the typology of how these chariots were seen in the stories of the Old Testament and what they mean concerning prophecies in the New Testament. 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 1. "And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses, and